I learned two things the day the Queen summoned me to her private room. First, secrets don't stay secret on a world that listens. Second, love is heavier than gravity when it finally demands to be seen. The summons arrived on a sheet of living glass, warm against my palm as the letters rearranged themselves. Archivist Kale Wren. Attend her radiance in the inner spire at the 9th bell. Alone. No seal. No guards. No explanation. On a palace that held 1,000,000 rooms and 10 million watchers, the absence of ceremony felt louder than a trumpet. I stood in the archive hall long after the glass cooled, watching the dust of centuries drift through columns of light. The archive was my refuge. Records of extinct suns, treaties carved into bone, maps of wormholes that had collapsed into themselves. Here, facts were faithful. Here, nothing betrayed you unless you asked it to. I had asked too much. They say the Queen of Orly sees without eyes, that her palace hears without ears, that the city's walls remember every footstep and whisper them back to her at night. I had believed those were stories told to keep courtiers honest. I believed that until the summons named me alone. I locked the vaults, smoothed my coat, and began the climb. The inner spire rose like a needle stitched into the sky. As I passed through its thresholds, the air grew thinner and sweeter, threaded with the low hum of the palace's sentient lattice. It brushed my thoughts like a curious animal. I kept my mind quiet. I had practiced that skill for years. I hadn't practiced for love. Her name was Illyra. She was a xenolinguist assigned to the Eastern Terraces, translating the songs of a migratory species whose speech traveled through water vapor. We met by accident, both reaching for the same echo shell in a forgotten lab. She laughed when our fingers collided, and the sound rearranged something inside me. We learned each other in margins. Shared meals stolen between shifts. Notes written in obsolete codes. Touches that lingered half a second too long and then vanished. On Orelise, intimacy wasn't forbidden, but unnoticed intimacy was rare. The city listened. We learned to speak without sound. I told myself we were careful. The 9th bell chimed as I reached the Queen's door. It wasn't a door so much as an absence, a curved cut in reality that breathed when I approached. It opened without a sound. The private room was smaller than I expected. No throne, no court, just a wide window opening onto the city, and a woman standing with her back to me, hands folded behind her. She turned. Queen Sereth of Orelise wore simplicity like armor. No crown, no jewels. Her hair fell silver-black down her back, and her eyes, gods, her eyes, held the quiet of deep water. They fixed on me with gentle precision. Archivist Kale Wren, she said. Her voice was unforced, intimate, as if we were alone by mutual choice. Thank you for coming. I bowed, lower than protocol required. Your Radiance. She gestured to a seat across a low table. Sit. You're not on trial. That somehow made it worse. I sat. The lattice hummed. The city listened. You curate secrets, the Queen said, pouring tea that steamed in slow, elegant spirals. You protect them from decay. You understand their weight. I do, I said carefully. She set a cup before me. Then you'll understand why I called you here. The palace has noticed a pattern. My pulse thudded. A pattern, Your Radiance? Yes. She met my gaze. A resonance between two citizens. One of them is you. I swallowed. There was no point denying it. If I've violated. You haven't, she said softly. Love is not a violation here, but secrecy can become one. I held still. You know about Illyra. The Queen smiled, not unkindly. I know about your secret love, she said, letting the word settle. And about the danger surrounding it. Danger. The word cut through my fear. What danger? She rose and crossed to the window. Below us, Aurelius glowed, a living city of bridges and gardens, canals and towers. Our world is changing, she said. The lattice that sustains us is aging. It listens well, but it also remembers too much. Emotions accumulate. Resonances amplify. She turned back. Two minds in harmony can become audible. My chest tightened. You're saying the city hears us. I'm saying the city answers, she said. And not always kindly. She waved a hand, and the air shimmered. An image formed, a small lab on the eastern terraces. Illyra and I bent over a console, our shoulders touching. The image pulsed, then fractured, lines of distortion crawling across it like cracks in ice. That's not a memory, I whispered. That's a simulation. A projection, the Queen corrected, of what could happen if your resonance continues to grow unchecked. The image shifted. The lab shook. The lattice screamed. Then darkness. I stood. You brought me here to tell me to end it. The Queen's gaze softened. I brought you here to ask you to choose. I stared at her. Between what? Between secrecy and truth, she said. Between fear and trust. Between a love hidden in shadows and a love that might help us save the city. I laughed once, harsh and disbelieving. You want to use us? I want to ask you, she said. There is a way to tune the lattice. To teach it to listen without amplifying. It requires a stable, conscious resonance between two willing minds. Lovers are uniquely suited. My thoughts raced. Why us? Because you're already there, she said simply. And because Illyra's work with vapor speech gives her an intuitive grasp of resonance that no one else has. I paced, hands shaking. If this goes wrong. It could, the Queen said. And if it goes right, Aurelius will endure another 1,000 years. I stopped. And if we refuse? She met my eyes. Then I will assign you to different hemispheres and order the lattice dampened around you until the resonance fades. Until love fades. The room felt suddenly too small. You said this wasn't a trial. It isn't, she said gently. It's a request. One I would not make lightly. I thought of Illyra's smile, of the way she listened with her whole body, of the future we hadn't dared to imagine because imagining felt dangerous. When do you need an answer? I asked. The Queen glanced toward the city. Soon. The lattice is restless. I nodded. Then I need to speak to her. Of course, she said. I've already arranged it. The eastern terraces were drenched in mist when I found Illyra. She stood on a balcony, palms upturned, eyes closed, letting the vapor speech wash over her. When she saw me, surprise flickered, then something else. She knows, I said, because there was no point pretending. Illyra exhaled. I felt the city shift, she said, like a held breath. We walked. I told her everything. The Queen, the lattice, the choice. When I finished, Illyra leaned against the railing, looking out at the drifting lights. All this time, she murmured, I thought we were hiding from the city. I didn't realize we were teaching it a new song. I reached for her hand. She took it. They'll separate us if we say no, I said. Slowly, gently, like turning down a light. And if we say yes, she asked. Then we step into the light, I said, together. She laughed softly. You make it sound romantic. It is, I said, and terrifying. She turned to me. Kale, I don't love you quietly, she said. I never have. I just learned to be silent. The decision settled between us like a shared breath. We returned to the inner spire hand in hand. The queen received us, without ceremony. "You've chosen," she said. "We have," Illyra replied. "We'll help you tune the lattice. And we'll do it openly," I added. "No more margins." The queen inclined her head. "Then we begin." The tuning chamber lay beneath the palace, a cathedral of light and sound where the lattice converged. We stood at its heart, sensors blooming around us like metallic flowers. The queen watched from a balcony, her presence steady and watchful.
"Don't force it," she said.
"Listen."
We did.
At first, the lattice roared, a storm of accumulated feeling.
Fear, joy, grief,
love. The city's memory pressed in on us, overwhelming. Illyra squeezed my hand. "Breathe with me," she whispered. We found each other in the noise. The simple rhythm of shared breath. The quiet certainty of choice. Slowly, the storm softened. The lattice's hum changed pitch, settling into something like a chord. I felt it then, the city listening with us instead of to us. Hours passed. Or moments. Time loosened its grip. When it was over, the chamber was quiet. The lattice glowed with a gentler light. The queen descended. "It's done," she said, wonder threading her voice. "You've taught Aurelius a new way to hear." Illyra sagged with relief. I caught her. "What happens now?" I asked. "Now," the queen said, smiling, "the city learns. And you live." We were not heroes overnight. There were setbacks, adjustments, days when the lattice flared and we had to study it again. But the city endured, and so did we. Weeks later, the queen called me once more to her private room. This time, I wasn't afraid. "You look lighter," she observed.
"So does the city," I said.
She nodded. Love is no longer a secret here. I thought of the archive hall, of facts faithful and unbetraying.
"Thank you," I said,
"for giving us a choice." She met my gaze. "Thank you for trusting me with your secret love." As I left the inner spire, Aurelius hummed, not with vigilance, but with welcome. And for the first time, as I took Illyra's hand in the open air, the city listened and did not answer back with fear. It answered with harmony. The city did not heal all at once. For days after the tuning, Aurelius moved like someone waking from a long illness, slow, cautious, relearning its own body. Bridges adjusted their curvature by millimeters. Light panels dimmed and brightened as if testing new moods. The lattice no longer whispered constantly in the back of my mind, but when it did speak, it was softer, curious, less afraid. Illyra and I were given quarters together near the inner spire, not as a reward, but as a necessity. Our resonance had become a stabilizing node. Separating us now would be like removing a keystone from an arch. The irony didn't escape me. We had hidden our love for fear of being seen. Now the city quite literally needed us to love each other out loud. On the 7th day, the lattice faltered. I felt it first, a sharp dissonance, like a glass about to shatter. Illyra gasped at the same moment, clutching her chest. "It's too much," she whispered. "The lower districts. They're panicking." The queen arrived within minutes, her calm strained but intact. "The old memories are surfacing," she said. "Centuries of suppressed fear. The lattice is trying to process them all at once." "And it's amplifying again," I said. "Yes," she replied. "Unless you intervene." I looked at Illyra. She was pale, but her eyes were steady. "This time," she said quietly, "we don't just stabilize it." I understood. "We teach it why," I said. The chamber opened, wider than before. The lattice flared, threads of light twisting violently overhead. Below us, the city's emotions surged. Fear of loss, fear of change, fear of being alone. Illyra stepped forward, releasing my hand. "I need you with me," she said, "but not holding me up." I nodded, heart pounding. "I'm here." We didn't just synchronize our breathing this time. We opened everything. Every stolen glance. Every quiet laugh. Every fear we'd never spoken. The nights we lay awake, afraid the city would hear us, and the mornings we chose each other anyway. I felt exposed beyond anything I'd ever known. If the lattice had wanted to tear us apart, it could have. Instead, it listened. Illyra spoke, not in words, but in resonance, shaping emotion the way she once shaped vapor speech. "Love does not weaken structure," she conveyed. "It teaches it flexibility. Fear breaks under pressure. Trust bends and holds." The lattice trembled. Then, slowly, impossibly, it began to echo us back, not louder, not distorted, but aligned. The surge passed. Silence followed, not empty, but peaceful. When I collapsed to my knees, Illyra was already there, laughing through tears. I pulled her into my arms, not caring who saw. Above us, the lattice settled into a new configuration, simpler, cleaner, resilient. The queen approached, her eyes shining. "Aurelice has crossed a threshold," she said. "It no longer feeds on secrecy. It grows from connection." Illyra rested her forehead against mine. "We did it." "No," I said softly. "We lived it." The weeks that followed changed everything. The archive was rewritten, not erased, but reframed. Records once sealed for fear of unrest were opened with context and care. Public spaces were redesigned to encourage gathering rather than surveillance. The lattice still listened, but it no longer hoarded emotion. It flowed. People changed too. Couples no longer whispered in corridors. Artists stopped hiding dangerous ideas in allegory. Even grief was allowed space instead of being quietly dampened. As for Illyra and me, we became something between citizens and caretakers. Not rulers. Not symbols. Just two people whose love had accidentally taught a city how to breathe. One evening, months later, I returned to the Queen's private room, this time by invitation, not summons. Illyra came with me. Sereth stood by the window as before, but she turned and smiled openly. "You've given me back my city," she said. "You trusted us," Illyra replied. That mattered. The Queen studied us for a long moment. "Do you know why I truly called you here that first day, Kale?" I shook my head. "Because I once made the opposite choice," she said quietly. "I hid a love to protect the throne. The city learned fear from me." She straightened. "You taught it something better." Outside, Aurelice shimmered, not perfect, not silent, but alive. As we left the spire, Illyra squeezed my hand. "No more secrets," she said. I smiled. "Only stories." And this time, when the city listened, it didn't take them from us. It carried them forward.